first presentation. One is, we know there's lots of questions, and questions will come up as we go through the day. So one gentleman mentioned that if you have a question, write it out on a piece of paper and put it at the end of the table, and we'll go around and we'll pick up all those pieces of paper, and we will answer your questions. But this one is particularly interesting because there may be some controversy over it. The question is, in the case study where the club did not notify the district who could have picked up the goods, can there be a process where there is upfront district-to-district notification? So in this instance, there could not be, because our district was not notified there was an issue until the goods were long gone, long gone. So, and also in the process of a global grant, the global grant is entered on the RI site. It is reviewed by our district, myself. It is reviewed by RI. I then, the application is completed. I authorize DDF, and it's out of our hands. It goes over to RI. RI does all the monitoring. We don't know what's going on. However, the MOU is signed. The district, host district, knows what's going on. If there's any communication between the club and the district, and the grant writer and the international club over here should know what's going on. In this instant, the individual, the grant writer, had a passion for this, a passion, and had been dealing with this country for years and truly believed that nothing could go wrong, right? So what that tells us is we can become too comfortable in a process. We can become so comfortable that we think we don't have to worry about any of the finer details. And this is what comes back to bite us. So we're not looking to point any blame here. We're just looking to, we don't learn by our successes. We learn by our errors. So we can thank this club. Thank you, because we have learned so much. Okay, so now I'm going to pass it over to Dick Sims, our foundation treasurer, and he's going to talk to you about stewardship. And please remember, if you have a question, write it down and we will attend to it.
I just wanted to let you know that I learned from Julie in her previous life. Okay, can everybody hear me now? All right. While I was off getting coffee, I heard somebody say, where do we find this stuff? Well, I happen to have a copy with me. This is the terms and conditions for Rotary Foundation district and global grants. It's available online. If you need a copy, let me know. All right? But everything that we're talking about today is in here, just not the pitfalls that we've been going through. The one that's most important to me as your treasurer is the Stewardship Foundation funds, and it's section 7.030 of the Rotary Information Manual. A good idea to have that when you start, especially doing international grants. Okay?
Question.
Yes, sir.
Is the Rotary International Manual the same thing as the terms and conditions?
Yes. I like the easy questions. Just in case I leave you confused or you have another question just like that one, I left some of my business cards back there on the table. It has my email address, and I do get around to answering every one. So give me a holler if you have a question. All right? We're jokingly saying I'm about to become the most popular guy in the district because this is when we start writing checks for all the grants for 16, 17. This training is for 17, 18. I hope we all know that. Okay. I'm on the bottom button. Where's that part of the manual I missed?
I was only given this job on Tuesday, so I'm not much more trained than anyone else. Oh, there we go.
I can operate from over there if you'd like. It's the computer that's frozen.
Okay.
Ah! That's Bob doing that.
Oh, this is me. There we go.
Okay,
Press down.
great. Okay, again, I'm going to talk to you about stewardship. And this is the one that affects most of our clubs most dramatically, aside from the political issues, because it's money out of your pocket. So, stewardship is relevant because it affects all of us, and especially it affects your club and your district. And what we need for stewardship is to make sure that we have responsible financial management, and I'll go over that a little bit in just a bit. And then corresponding accounting practices. I know we're not all CPAs or public accountants, but we need to learn those tools in order to get through the grant process. Oops. You did well. Thank you. I can see it's going to be fun trying to keep up here. Okay, what does it mean by stewardship? We are all collectively responsible. You might say, oh, well, that committee has it, they're taking care of it. Don't stop there. Ask the question. If you have a question, ask it. Because if you have a question, maybe we at the district have a question. And that's the way you get them answered ahead of time. The quicker all that stuff is done, the quicker I get to write the check. And I like writing checks. You didn't know I could sing, did you? Which way am I going? Okay. I'm afraid to push a button now. We all need to ensure that the money is used for our intended purpose. And hopefully you've all been involved in the grant process, grant writing process. And these are all voluntary workers, us, and people we get to help us. And we have to reward them, if you will, with hard work and dedicated support. The stewardship policies I just pointed out to you, if you have a question, look it up online. It's there. Now, what do we get with proper grant management? First of all, we get successful projects. I know we've been talking about the problems. Let me assure you that 90% or 99% of them go through without a problem because they took this training and they followed the instructions. We have to maintain Rotary's mission and reputation wherever we go with our projects. And I've had comments say, oh, well, we're just giving dictionaries to kids in our local school district. Well, what are we doing? We're branding Rotary with that, aren't we? So it's still an important mission. We have to develop a culture of financial accountability and responsibility. Keeping you awake? Gotcha. That's pretty self-explanatory. If you say you're going to spend the money for something on the project, spend the money for only that on the project. And we need to maintain our donor confidence. If your club is like my club, we get lots of outside money, and we tell them what we're going to do with it. And when we're done doing that with it, we tell them that we did it. Okay. And then what happens when things go wrong? We just kind of laid the groundwork up there. We lose that community confidence. Or you get magic sounds coming out. I think everybody gets the picture. We need to maintain our community stature. Okay. One of the most important things we've come up with since we went into the grant management process at the local level is the MOU requirements. If we do the MOU correctly and follow all of these requirements, 99% of all the projects would just come out fine. You wonder what the big problem was. Yes, ma'am. Oh, memorandum of understanding. Okay, the memorandum of understanding is between you and, in the case of a global grant, the international club. In the case of a local grant, it's you and your club. If, in fact, it takes some activity by the recipient for your grant locally, they need to be on the MOU also. You betcha. You betcha. I hope that answered the question. Okay. We need an annual financial assessment, and that, of course, is just basically telling your club how you did and that you did it right. We'll be touching on each of these later. So setting up bank accounts, I'll touch that in more detail. Reporting, again, I'll touch that in more detail, but one of the biggest things we find, especially in my club, we start these half a dozen projects, we don't tell anybody about them. All of a sudden it's done, we have our end of the year report, and everybody says, we did that this year? If you have a club that has 96 people in it, it's pretty easy to miss somebody. So remember to keep reporting and report to your club. Bob will need the rest of the reports. The document retention. If in fact you're buying things, for example, we just finished a dictionary project for the third grade kids for our school district. In order to complete that, get the funding and all the rest of that, of course we had to keep the invoice, the freight, the receipt from the schools, etc. So we have to maintain all of that stuff. Stewardship plan, we're doing that now, but we need to make sure we enforce it. Responsible financial management is just what it says. Make informed purchase decisions. In other words, you don't just go to your brother-in-law who says, oh yeah, I can get you those, no problem. The worst words you can hear in stewardship is no problem. Did you bring me the invoice? Oh, I'll get it to you, no problem. You can see where that's headed. Believe me, we see it. And clubs are, especially in district grants, are missing their money for months and months and months because they can't just do these simple things. So even if it's your friend, your neighbor, your brother-in-law, whoever, and he says, no problem, say, yep, it is. Get it to me before I can pay you. Anytime you have a financial transaction, it has to be transparent. In other words, if somebody in your club asks, what'd you do with that money that you're going to buy dictionaries with? You have to say, I bought it from Houghton Mifflin, and they shipped them on da-da-da-da date. If you have to tell them, oh, we'll get you the information, don't worry, start worrying. And then, of course, we need to maintain a complete record of all the financial activities. And if you don't get that to Bob and Judy, they won't tell me to write you the check. Pretty simple. Do hang on to it. I know that Bill mentioned it, but I want to emphasize it again. Project committees are responsible for determining and managing the grant funds. And the important thing is committees. Don't just have somebody say, oh, I have a project, we can do this, and then go do it. Make sure you have a committee. Make sure they follow all the rules and regulations of our stewardship. I heard someone say, isn't this kind of new? It is. Some of the stuff is new because we went through the, what was the name of the program, Bill? Yes, okay, Future Vision, where we took over the responsibility for all this stuff. And now that's why we're training it, okay? It's a collective responsibility. Don't let them say, oh yeah, no problem, we got that. Get the answer, get the answer. And monopolizing grant opportunity is a great place for misuse. That's where someone says, well, hey, you know, we didn't need dictionaries in this class. How about a tape recording? And our grant application said dictionaries. What did we just do? We changed it. Is that misuse? Might have been a great project, but it is misuse. And one of the things to help us keep track of all this, and we really recommend this, is every week, I assume you all have a, for the good of the order statement period at the end of your meetings. Just set up a one sentence statement to stand up every week and say, for the good of the order, I'd like to report that the dictionaries were shipped. Or I'd like to report that the dictionaries were delivered to half of the schools. Keep everybody involved. These are pretty self-explanatory. If you're ordering something from someone, make sure you get competitive bids. And by some mechanism, you know the Rotary paid the lowest price. Okay? If you can get a bidding process going, great. Do it. Especially on international projects. Makes a big difference. And the vendor selection and the price point should be clear to the district, that's me up here and back there, and your staff, okay? Your committee needs to be able to say, we chose Bill's service because it was the most economical. We chose John's service because it provided the most service. Make sure we know the reasons. Hi, Sally.
I think you addressed it because you said make sure we get the lowest price. At sometimes when you're a competitive bid, the references are not as good on the lowest bid about delivery and execution. So if you choose a different bidder, can you give that reason?
Yes, yes, yes. Just make sure everybody's involved and you're all on the same page. Okay? Write that description. We chose this person because they deliver every year. We didn't choose that person because every other year they miss. Okay? Is it necessarily always the lowest price? I guess that's what we really were getting to, wasn't it, Sally? Okay. If prices change during the implementation of your grant, what do? Communicate, there you go. That's a good one. All right. You need to let the grant managers know that you got a problem. If it's material And if you read this, you'll find out what material means. Generally, it's 10%. That's not always true, so don't take that to the bank. If it's material, you need to start the process over again. Get an improvement to your grant application. Don't let it just fall by the wayside. And do it timely. Don't wait till oh yeah, we'll talk about that at the end of the process when we send in our grant application. Do it now. Do it now. And if it's a material and it's international, you may even have to stop the project until you get that corrected. So be very careful. Okay? Well, the last tip gives it to us. Get approval for the changes in prices or quantity. And quantities change too. You might get to your new outlying area with your international club might be too far away to help. And so you get there to do the implementation and find out there are twice as many villagers that need that water or need whatever you're providing. Yes, ma'am.
What about exchange rates changing during the process?
We never heard of that. That will be handled in the global grant reporting. Okay? If you know you're going to have some fluctuations, you might build it in as a catch-all, as an alternate type thing. But yeah, unless it was stupid, like double. But generally that won't affect you. Okay. Yes, ma'am. I will.
Okay. Contingency line, when you're saying build it into the grant, but is that changed? TRF doesn't want us to put that in.
You can put a contingency line in, and that's a great place for exchange rates.
So that's allowed now.
Yes. That has not changed, correct? Okay. That we could put a contingency in our grant application in the budget. Yeah. Okay. Be sure you get that receipt for every time you buy goods or services. Again, don't let them say, oh, I'll get it to you. Don't worry about it. You will be worrying about it when the deadline for your grant application comes up to get it finalized and get paid. And then I get to field those questions, and I don't like that. Always make your payments directly to a vendor. Don't say, well, give me the money and I'll go get it from somebody else. Try not to do that. Sometimes you can't avoid it, but try not to do that. There are too many places for it to go wrong, and too much misinformation can be handed out so you can't finalize your grant. And remember Bill's comment, if we don't finalize it, you get to pay it. Always make payments by check. And this is sometimes in international flavors you can't guarantee that will always be the case. But if you're not able to write the check directly to the vendor, make sure you have the flow in process where this person gets the goods, gets a receipt, la da 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 da, all the way back to the treasurer. I know I'm making myself sound awfully important, but if I can't write the check, I can't look you in the eye. If you can't get all that information back to Bob or Judy, they aren't going to tell me to write the check. So make sure you have a flow. If you can't write the check, get receipts. If you have to pay for it in any other manner, get receipts with signatures of people who are involved in the project. Okay? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
You're saying not to wire funds to the road
No, I didn't say that. No, the vendor.
I know, but you're
The
saying
ve-
because say to the vendor, not give it to the Rotary Club.
No,
To pay.
no. You would be sending the money to the Rotary Club, and they in turn, by your MOU, would have to buy from the vendor and get that receipt. Okay? And then not last, but one of the things we need to do is maintain a ledger of payment activity. That includes the date of the transaction, the check number, receipt, if that's the way you have to do it otherwise, check number, payee, amount, purpose of the transaction, and a signature from someone who received it. And I don't need to tell you where we go if you get a receipt that doesn't have a signature on it.
That word reviewer should be a receiver then.
On this particular one, the person that reviewed the transaction should sign it. That's not the receiver. That's the person that reviewed the ledger. That's me or you, one of your committee members in the club. Okay? To answer your question? Okay. Bank accounts. This is an awful easy one to go astray on, but make sure every single grant, I'm not talking about district community grants, but every single grant has a separate bank account, and the bank account name titles it. Okay? And then you have to have at least 2 Rotary signatures, and that's pretty standard throughout Rotary, so that shouldn't be any difference for you. But get 2 Rotary signatures. That's someone looking over your shoulder when you write that check. They should be low or non-interest bearing, and that's pretty standard anymore because I don't know anybody's giving out interest. And again, make sure you have a separate account for each grant. Save your bank statements because they go with that grant paperwork. And if in fact you have to make direct payments, those withdrawals have to be documented with the bank. Yes, sir.
Seems like you just said something about that separate account. You said not for community grants.
We have a lot of community grants that do not have a bank account. That's the only purpose, okay? For example, I'll just use one we just finished. The dictionaries. We bought $9,000 worth of dictionaries, but we didn't have a separate bank account. We bought it out of the foundation, okay? Had we have been giving those to an NGO or an international club, we definitely would have had to have it, okay? That was just a community grant. And then if you have excess, who's ever had excess? Well, I don't need to go any further. Either return it or seek approval to use it in another manner to help out your project. And now questions. I see 3 hands. Start with you.
The first one, it appears that most of what you're talking about applies most directly to global grants, and the way I understand it, the requirements for community grants make it somewhat simpler. So I don't think it's clear when we're talking up here that, it wasn't clear to me that we were primarily talking about global grants.
And that's probably my fault because I worry about the ones we need to worry about. The community grants generally are, lower in amounts and something that you take care of in your own little community. Okay. I can think, Bob? Sure.
For the community grant, you do not receive foundation money until you're being reimbursed. So whatever processes you use in your club to do spending and accounting, that's what do. We're not going to do any foundation money. The reason you have a separate bank account is you now have received money from TRF. You're responsible for it and accounting. With community grants, we're simply reimbursing you after you complete the grant.
Bob said it very well. If you got money from TRF, separate bank account. Pretty simple. Yes?
With respect to,
I'm afraid of you after listening to your explanations.
I'll try to behave.
Okay.
With respect to global grants,
Yes.
it is possible you may have several districts involved. The information we're going through today, is that transportable to other districts? Or do districts have their own rules?
What are your MOUs? What did they say? You're going to have to organize that all within the MOU for the project.
Well, I'm asking about the funds. You know, in our district, the maximum that the district will match for a global grant is $15,000.
Okay.
If there's another district in Kansas City, is that the same limitation they have, or could that vary?
I'm going to let Judy answer that one.
Each district has their own limits as to what they will match and how they will make the decision to match. And whatever district you may be partnering with, there has to be an MOU involved. So to answer your question, we have certain regulations. We don't necessarily know what the other districts have as their criteria, but the district you're working with, they know, and it has to be spelled out in their memorandum of understanding.
So there would be an MOU between my club and our district
Yes,
for this to start with.
yes,
Okay, that's
yes,
standard.
yes, yes.
There is an MOU between our club, which is the international club, with the host club.
Yes,
And then there will also be another MOU
Partner.
between the district and any other district.
not between us, between you and any other district, because they are putting money into your global grant. So they're all partners, they're your partners.
Okay, so you do not need to review that.
No. But keep in mind, if we give DDF, we want you to be the lead. Okay? So, and this is all spelled out in your funding plan, in your funding, right? How you're generating all of your monies, that has to be all clearly stated. You're looking for 15,000 from 5020, you're looking for 7,000 from 5060, you're looking for 3,000 from 7180, right? That's fairly common, very common. But there will be agreements between your club and those specific districts.
And are those MOUs similar to the?
I don't know. It's district specific. You have to work with those districts.
Follow up on his thing there, it's not clear where the requirements are coming from. Does Rotary International have a separate set of requirements for Rotary grants, and are those requirements designated? In other words, it would apply to all districts in general, as opposed to just district-specific requirements.
We're going to go over that when we go over the global grant section, okay? But this is just relative to Dick's presentation.
Yes.
I've often found it appropriate to maybe allow upfront payments for goods, but require payments for any services or labor we have on a reimbursement basis. Is that a good way to approach those things?
Put it that way in your MOU and see if you get it approved. Well, I can think of 180 degrees with your question. You know, one is good, one is not. So if you have a question like that, go ahead and put it in your MOU. If there's any way you can make the payment and get a receipt, do it. Way back there. What? Okay.
want to see how that plays out, right? If it plays out okay, and that the club's working together, has done a fabulous presentation, and they've identified what the rules are involved from all of this. So that has to play out over the steps.
Can they transfer Google Docs to you?
But getting back to this about the MOU, memorandum of understanding, you make that relevant to whatever your project proposal is. So you define the rules. You define who's doing what in that MOU. You sign it, they sign it, then you're on the hook for it. Okay, but it's something you created.
I just use that as an excuse not to answer his question. Yes. Yes. Yes.
I found, we just did a global grant, and just a suggestion, I found it very helpful that TRF will, for a small fee, help you transfer your funds to the right account in your host fund, et cetera, so you don't have to worry about getting the funds there. And I thought, it was worth that small fee.
Did everybody hear?
We sent all our funds to TRF, and they tell you exactly how to do it, and how they credit each club that's involved. And they in turn will transfer the funds to the host country.
So long as there's an MOU completed and, okay, all right. We didn't skip that step, folks. Yes, Michael.
What if you have a global grant with not only a host Rotary Club, but a cooperating organization, and they are the experts in the field, and there's a case for them to control the bank account, and maybe they would, not their host Rotary Club. Does that ever work?
That, I'd say no. I can think of lots of examples there, but generally you want to have Rotarians keep control of the bank account. Okay? Put it in your NGO, MOU. MOU. Okay, I have a question from up here. Are clubs using Google Docs for document retention or Club Runner? Question mark. Anybody using Google Docs? Okay. And are you able to transmit them to Bob?
Yeah.
Okay. He's going to give me that. I don't know.
Well, to me, if it's not in Club Runner, it doesn't exist.
Yes.
I would kind of reverse that question. Why isn't Rotary International using a modern technology like Google Docs instead of Club Runner?
Next subject.
Why don't I take over?
Why don't you take over?